Hello everyone, welcome back to round 2 of the VOR iRacing IndyCar series from Phoenix, Arizona. This is Kane Jr. for your racing recap. Your pole sitter is Pablo Diaz with a 21.048. P2 belongs to Luis Gonzalez, Oscar Gonzalez for P3, Julian Martinez for P4, and Isaac Morris wraps up your starting top 5. And now with the pace car into the pit lane, Pablo Diaz is going to get this race started. Behind him it's going to be Luis Gonzalez, Oscar Gonzalez, Julian Martinez, and that's going to be Julian Altina who's going to make the move on Isaac Morris for P5. If you're hoping for a few good battles for the lead like we saw last week in California, unfortunately that was not the case this week, as this is as close as anyone got to Pablo Diaz for the lead. But that doesn't mean that this race didn't have any action. It had plenty of action all throughout the grid. Lap 2 saw two different battles, one between Isaac Morris and Julian Altina over P5 as Morris is looking on the inside of Altina, but Altina is able to retain. Another one between the Gonzalez's up into turns 3 and 4 for P2, but Luis Gonzalez able to retain. A second look from the rear of the grid shows that it was not a clean start for everyone involved, as those at the rear of the field got bunched up in a bit of an accordion effect, but luckily no major damages. Lap 8 brought out the race's first caution as Julian Martinez holding steady on the P4, loses it exiting turn 2, luckily does not hit anyone else or the wall, but unfortunately falls all the way to the rear of the grid. Lap 16 saw the race's first chain incident as Luis Gonzalez gets a bit of understeer in P3 trying to defend from Altina. This causes Altina to take evasive action by dipping his left side tires onto the apron of the racetrack, which greatly unsettles the bounce of the car, sending the car into a skid and then rear wing first into the barrier. Altina, though, playing it safe and like a gentleman, waiting till it's safe to rejoin. Lap 21 goes straight from a three-way battle over P11 to synchronized spinning between Lunt and Carter, but unfortunately for Carter, he's unable to keep that car out of the barrier. The lap 28 restart saw perhaps the race's largest incident, as 5, maybe even 6 cars involved in that pile-up. Cars losing it left, right, and center. Kind of a traffic blockade. On board with Isaac Morris, absolutely nowhere for him to go except for right through the middle of 2 cars, and back to a caution we go. Lap 35 saw another apron-related incident. This time it's Manahar, then he drifts back up into Altina's path, nowhere for Altina to go. On board with Altina, it looks like no contact was made, but still Manahar gets a short end of the deal and goes into the infield grass. Lap 41 saw 2 separate battles, this one over P4 as Isaac Morris goes to the inside of Oscar Fredrickson into the dogleg and then into turns 3 and 4, able to make it stick on the bottom line. And then right behind them, Manahar overtakes Jack and saying, "Anything you can do, I can duplicate." Lap 45 for position 4, Julian versus Julian, as Julian goes on the inside of Julian. Clean overtake, able to make the move stick on the bottom line. Julian slides into the slipstream of Julian. Now it's Julian leading Julian. The very next lap, lap 46, brings out a caution as a back marker driving dangerously slow on the racing line. Thankfully no contact was made, but it was enough to bring out a caution. The lap 48 caution finally saw our first lead change of the day. This is going to cause Pablo Diaz, the pole sitter, as well as the top 4 runners of this race, to dive into the pit lane for the first stops of the day. Oscar Fredrickson from P5 all the way up to P1 now, going to take his first lead of today's race. Getting ready for the lap 53 restart. After that round of pit stops, your top 5 to restart this race will be Oscar Fredrickson, Isaac Morris, Pablo Diaz, Oscar Gonzalez, and Luis Gonzalez. Pablo Diaz looking to retake P1 as he's waiting on the high line for the racing to return to green. Keep in mind, Oscar Fredrickson and Isaac Morris opted to not take a pit stop, so the cars behind them are going to be on much fresher tires. And now heading into turn 1, looks like it's probably going to be 3 wide, but Pablo Diaz wisely backs off as he knows there's still plenty of time left in this race to get the pass made to reclaim P1. Fredrickson and Moore still holding on to P1 and 2. Keep in mind they did not make any pit stops. And now Pablo Diaz looking on the outside of Isaac Morris. He gets the job done for P2. Luis Gonzalez follows. Now Pablo Diaz looking for the lead on the outside of Oscar Fredrickson, and that is going to be a 1-2 by Pablo Diaz and Luis Gonzalez. Lap 59 saw a pretty simple and easy overtake by Altina as he goes on the inside of Manahar into turn 4. P5 for Altina, P6 for Manahar. Lap 63 saw an overtake by Luis Gonzalez over Oscar Fredrickson. Fredrickson probably regretting his decision not to pit as those tires are costing him valuable time. Lap 69 saw a pretty scrappy battle for P7, and that's going to be Jackins looking on the inside of Manahar. He looks like he gets the job done, but Manahar is not going to give up just yet, as he's going to try to switch back as he's looking on the inside of Jackins now heading into turn 1. So that's going to have forced Jackins to take the high line, but he's going to get the superior grip and then shut the door on Manahar. Lap 95, Pablo Diaz still holding on strong to P1, pumping in some pretty consistent lap times, but he is unable to make it the rest of the way on fuel, so he's going to have to make his final pit stop of the day. That turns over the race lead to Oscar Gonzalez. And even though he fell back to P4, Pablo Diaz has still put himself in an excellent position to win this race as he begins his charge back to the front of the grid. Lap 109 saw Oscar Fredrickson making his final pit stop of the night from P2. That's going to allow Gonzalez, Altena, and Diaz to move up to P2, 3, and 4. Heading into turn 1, that's going to be Diaz looking on the inside of Altena. Altena holding steady on the outside. He's not going to give up just yet. I think Diaz has slightly fresher rubber than Altena does, and he's going to rethink that. Now he's going to look on the outside into turns 3 and 4 on Altena. But as they head on to the start-finish straight, that's going to allow Diaz to get into Luis Gonzalez's slipstream. And now heading onto the back straight, the dogleg straight, Diaz is going to start his focus on Luis Gonzalez. This is going to be for P2 overall. And now Diaz and Gonzalez are side by side, a battle for P2, but actually it's a battle for the lead as your front runner Oscar Gonzalez cannot go the rest of the way on fuel. He's still going to have to make one more pit stop. Diaz falling back, he's going to work up a run on Luis Gonzalez, looking on the inside of the dogleg and now into turns 3 and 4, and he gets the job done. That is essentially the race lead for Pablo Diaz as he's looking for his first victory of the season. And it is safe to say that this entire race was dominated by the car you see on your screen. This man, Pablo Diaz, takes his first and well-deserved victory of this VOR iRacing IndyCar Series season at Phoenix, Arizona. Absolute domination. P2 belongs to Oscar Gonzalez, P3 to Luis Gonzalez, Oscar Fredrickson, P4, P5 belongs to Jamie Jenkins, Julian Altena P6, Yashish Manahar for P7, Isaac Morrison P8, Sean Reynolds P9, and Julian Martinez for P10. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you next week in Charlotte. As always, take care and stay safe.